Intelligent Psycho back with another stream. So I'm gonna do this, do more lives like this, where I'm gonna talk about my favorite bands, musicians. I'm gonna cover bands and musicians from the 70s, late 60s, early 70s, 80s, and 90s on to the 2000s and further. So for today, I'm gonna talk about this 1984 grunge, heavy metal, alternative rock band by the name of Soundgarden, led by singer and drummer Chris Cornell, guitarist Kim Thale, and bassist Hiro Yamamoto. And so for today, I'm gonna talk about this. Soundgarden, alternative American rock band formed in Seattle, Washington, in 1984 by singer drummer Chris Cornell, guitarist Kim Thale, and bassist Hiro Yamamoto. And also, if I didn't mention this, what I do go over in these series, I'll go over the band, I'll go over the actual group, the members. I'll go over my favorite songs, my favorite albums from them, why I like them, and then overall, like, is it a recommendation for you guys to check them out? So I'm gonna do this more on live streams now if I didn't already had already gotten to mention this too. So yeah, here we go. So getting back to what I was saying, in 1984, by singer drummer Chris Cornell, guitarist Kim Thale, and bassist Hiro Yamamoto, Cornell switched to rhythm guitar in 1985, replaced on drums initially by Scott Sundquist and later in Matt Cameron in 1986. Yamamoto left in 1989. It was replaced initially by Jason Everman and shortly thereafter by Ben Shepherd. Soundgarden disbanded in 1997 and reformed in 2010. Following Cornell's death in 2017, Thale declared in 2018 that Soundgarden had disbanded a second time, though they did reunite in 2019 for a one-off concert and contribute to Cornell. Rest in peace to Chris Cornell, because I remember that time in 2017. Man, that was something something I remember watching that performance. Man, that was just incredible. Really good tribute to him, and rest in peace. Soundgarden was one of the pioneers of grunge music, a style of alternative rock that developed in the American Pacific Northwest in the mid-1980s and helped popularize in the early 1990s, along with Seattle contemporaries such as Alice in Chains, Pearl Jam, and Nirvana. And they were the first number of grunge bands to sign to Seattle-based record label Sub Pop, which released 2 EPs, Screaming Life from 1987 and Thop from 1988. Soundgarden's debut album, Ultra Mega OK, was also released in 1988 and by the California-based independent label SST Records. Although the album did not sell well nationally, it garnered critical acclaim and was nominated for a Grammy Award in 1990. The second album, Louder Than Love, was recorded independently, but after they signed to A&M Records in 1989, making them one of the first grunge bands to sign a major label, and it became for their major label debut. Ultra Mega OK had failed to chart, and Louder Than Love peaked at number 108 on the Billboard 200 album chart. The band's third album, Bad Motor Finger, in 1991, was buoyed by the success of the singles Jesus Christ Pose and Outshine and Rusty Cage, and reached number 39 on the Billboard 200 and has been certified double platinum by the Recording Industry Association of America, RIAA. Soundgarden achieved the biggest success for their fourth album, Super Unknown, one of my favorites right there, which debuted at number 1 in the Billboard 200 and yielded the Grammy Award-winning single Spoon Man and Black Hole Sun. The band experimented with new sonic textures of their follow-up album, Down on the Upside, in 1996, which debuted at number 2 on the Billboard 200 and spawned several hit singles of his own, including Pretty Noose, Burning in My Hand, Blow Up on the Outside World in 1997. And the band broke up due to internal strife over his creative direction and exhaustion from touring. And after more than a decade working on projects and other bands, they reunited in 2010. Republic Records released their sixth and final studio album, King Animal, in 2012. Formations and early recordings from 1984 to 1988. Soundgarden's origins began with the band called the Shimps, which performed around Seattle in the early 1980s and featured bassist Hiro Yamamoto and drummer singer Chris Cornell. Following Yamamoto's departure, the band recruited guitarist Ken Theo as his new bassist, and Theo moved to Seattle from Park Forest, Illinois, and with Yamamoto and Bruce Pavitt, who would later start the independent record label Sub Pop. Cornell and Yamamoto stayed in contact, and after the Shimps broke up, Cornell and Yamamoto started jamming together and eventually joined by Theo. Soundgarden was formed in 1984, included Cornell's drum and vocals, Yamamoto's bassist, and Theo guitar, and the band named themselves after a wind channeling pipe sculpture called the Soundgarden on National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration property in 7600 Sandpoint Way, next to Mungus Park in Seattle. And Cornell played drums while singing. But in 1985, the band enlisted Scott Stanquist to allow Cornell to concentrate on vocals. The band traveled around playing various concerts with this lineup for about a year. Their first recordings were 3 songs that appeared on the 1986 compilation album CZ Records called Deep Six, Heretic, Tears to Forget, and All Your Lies. And it also features songs from fellow grunge pioneers Green River, Skin Yard, Mel Funkskin, You Men, and the Melvins. And in 1986, Cornell's then girlfriend and future wife Susan Silver started managing Soundgarden. In the same year, Sundquist left the band to spend time with his family and was replaced by former Skin Yard drummer Matt Cameron. Ultra Mega OK and the major label signing and Louder Than Love, 1988 to 1990. Though the major labels, according to the band in 1988, they signed to independent labels SST Records for their debut album, Ultra Mega OK, released on October 31st, 1988. And Cornell said that the band made a huge mistake with Ultra Mega OK because they were used of producers suggested by SST who didn't know what was happening in Seattle. And according to Steve Huey of AllMusic, Soundgarden demonstrates a Stooges MC5 meets Zeppelin Sabbath sound on the album. And Mark Marimow directed the band's first music video for Flower, which aired regularly on MTV's 120 Minutes. Soundgarden promoted Ultra Mega OK on tour in the United States in the spring of 1989, and a tour in Europe, which began in May 1989. And the band's first overseas tour, Ultra Mega OK, earned the band a Grammy Award nomination for Best Metal Performance in 1990. And after touring to promote Ultra Mega OK, they signed to A&M Records, which caused a rift between Soundgarden and its traditional audience, Dale said. And in the beginning, fans came from the punk rock crowd, and they abandoned us when they thought they were sold out to punk tenants, getting a major label and touring with Guns N' Roses. And there were fashion issues and social issues, and people thought that they were no longer belonged to their scene, a particular subculture, and the band later began working on their first album from a major label, but personal difficulties caused a shift in the band's songwriting process, according to the Nail. At the time, Hiro Yamamoto excommunicated himself from the band, and there wasn't a free-flowing system as far as the music went. And so I ended up writing a lot for it. September 5th, 1989, the band released his debut major label album, Louder Than Love, which saw them a step forward from the metal mainstream, according to Steve Huey of AllMusic, describing it as a slow, grinding and detuned mountain of Sabbath and Zeppelin riffs and Chris Cornell wailing, because some of the lyrics were most notably on Hands All Over and Big Dumb Six. The band faced various retail and distribution problems. Upon the album's release, Louder Than Love became the band's first album on the chart on the Billboard 200, peaked at number 108 on the chart in 1990. A month before touring Louder Than Love was to begin, bassist Hiro Yamamoto, who was becoming frustrated and he was not taking much of a contribution, let the band return to college. And the band had played a few rehearsals with Jim Tillman from the U-Men, and it did not work. As soon Jason Everman, formerly of Nirvana, also replaced the hero Yamamoto on bass. The band toured North America from December 1989 to March 1990, opening from a Void, who was supporting the album Nothing Face with Faith No More, and Big F also serving as opening acts at the beginning and end of the tour. The band left and then went on tour to Europe, and the band fired Everman in the mid-1990s immediately after completing his promotional tour for Louder Than Love. Theo said that Jason didn't just work out. Louder Than Love spawned the EP, The Loudest Love, and the video compilation, Louder Than Love, both released in 1990. Established lineup, Bad Motorfinger, and rise in popularity. Bassist Ben Shepherd and Jason Everman, and the new lineup recorded Soundgarden's third album in 91. Cornell said that Shepherd brought a fresh and creative approach to the recording decisions, and the band host said that the knowledge of music and skills will redefine the band and result in the album Bad Motorfinger in October 1991, and Steve Huey of AllMusic said that the songwriting of Bad Motorfinger takes a quantum leap in the focus and consistency, cerebral and arty music for or band courting mainstream metal audiences, and of course lyrics like reading the novel from the man's column with itself, society, and the government, or his family, or the economy, or anything. And his first single, Jesus Christ Pose, had garnered attention when MTV decided to ban his music video in 91. To portray themselves as being persecuted, although eclipsed at the same time as the release by the sudden popularity of Nirvana's Nevermind, the focused attention brought by Nirvana to the Seattle scene helped the Soundgarden gain wider attention. The singles Outshine and Rusty Cage were able to find an audience on alternative rock radio and MTV, and Bad Motorfinger was nominated for a Grammy Award for Best Metal Performance in 1992 and was among the top 100 selling albums of the year. The band played in 1992 Lollapalooza, toured with Red Hot Chili Peppers, Pearl Jam, Ministry, and Ice Cube, among others. And the band's appearance, in anticipation of the band's appearance at Lollapalooza, they released a limited edition of Bad Motorfinger in 92, second disc containing the EP Satan No Ciliate and Miss Metallics Nodis, a palindrome featuring Soundgarden's cover of Black Sabbath's Into the Void, titled Into the Void, which was nominated for a Grammy Award for Best Metal Performance in 93, and the band later released a video for Motorvision, filmed in Seattle's Paramount Theater, and appeared on the movie singles for performing Becoming Birth Ritual, and the song is included on the soundtrack, and Cornell also solo song Seasons. In 93, the band contributed the track Show Me to the AIDS benefit album, an alternative produced by the Red Hot organization. So my overall thoughts of Soundgarden was of them, I first heard about them was through the album Bad Motorfinger, and on forward, of course, with Super Unknown. And the single that I heard about them was Rusty Cage and Outshine. Those songs had occurred, in my rotation, in my recommendations, on my walkway. And then, of course, when I eventually end up getting, like iTunes, then, of course, Apple Music, later on down the road, like, that's when I had heard about them. And I was like, you know what? Because I wasn't around at the time when they came out. So I just happened to just hear them, like, just in rotation on shuffle, music shuffle. So I was like, you know what? I heard these songs, and those were the songs I go or went to. Hadn't went back to any of their earlier music at the time, but after a while, when I went back to it, that was just a really revelating and experience because I had a feeling that they got inspired, especially from Chris Cornell and the bassist Yamamoto, and just the way that they do their instrumentation, the way they perform their music sounded more or less similarly, especially from those songs, similarly to Nirvana and Black Sabbath, Led Zeppelin. I had a feeling that they all had some sort of connection and some sort of inspiration behind it. And my favorite album from theirs had to be Super Unknown. That was like the album that I go to the most. And my favorite songs from there definitely was Spoon Man and Black Hole Sun. Just the sonics, just the overall texture, the compilation of textures, the vibes, the overall production, the vocals from Chris Cornell, the playing by Kim Thale, man, like they all did their thing, but that was really what was the driving force home for me when it came to just overall putting together, the body of work, and to me, that's what put them so much over the top. So yeah, I definitely recommend them to a lot of people if you have not heard of them. And if you like alternative rock, heavy metal music, you got to check these guys out because they're definitely doing it. And they're one of the greatest to ever do it, man. So I would highly recommend them. Um, and let's go to another band real quick. That I wanted to highlight and talk about. And that goes, I wanted to highlight another group, but goes in 1973 by the name of Journey. So Journey is an American rock band formed in San Francisco in 1973 by former members Santana and the Stephen Miller Band and Fremius Bandersnatch. The band is of 2024 consists of Neil Scott and guitars and vocals of remaining the original members Jonathan Kane, keyboard members and guitar and vocals Dean Castronovo on drums and vocals, Arnel Pineda and on lead vocals, and Jason Derlacta on keyboard and vocals, and Todd Jensen on bass. Journey had their biggest commercial success in 1978 and 1987 when Steve Perry was the lead vocalist and released a series of hit songs. Don't Stop Believing, which in 2009 became the top-selling track on iTunes. History of Among Songs Not Released in the 21st Century. Journey's seventh and most successful album reached number one on the Billboard 200 and yielded another popular single, Open Arms. The 1983 follow-up album, Frontiers, was almost as successful in the United States, releasing number two and spawning several successful singles. Broadened the band's appeal in the United Kingdom, and it reached number 6 on the UK albums chart. On the UK albums chart. Frontiers, which was almost successful in the US, reaching number 2 and spawning several successful singles. It broadened the band's appeal to the UK, where it reached number 6 on the UK albums chart. Journey enjoyed a successful reunion of the mid 1990s and have since regrouped twice. First with Steve Augeri from 1998 to 2006, and Arnel Pienda from 2007 onward. 1973 to 1977 formation journeyed into the future into the next. Original members of Journey came together in San Francisco in 1973 under auspices of Santana manager Herbie Herbert, and originally called Golden Gate Rhythm Selection, and intended to serve as a backup group for established Bay Area artists. The band included Santana alumni Neil Scone and lead guitar, Greg Rowley on keyboards and lead vocals, bassist Ross Valori, and formerly of both Freemius Banderscatch and Stephen Miller Band, as well as rhythm guitarist George Tinkner and Freemius Banderscatch rounded out the group. Prairie Prince and the two served as the drummer, and once performance in Hawaii, the band quickly abandoned the backup group concept and developed a distinctive jazz fusion style, which, after an successful radio contest naming the group, roadie John Villanueva suggested the name Journey. The band's first public appearance came at the Winterland Ballroom on New Year's Eve in 1973 in an audience of 10,000. The following day, the band flew to Hawaii to perform at the Diamond Head Crater in an audience over 100,000 strong. Prairie Prince rejoined the two shortly thereafter on February 1st, 1974. And after auditioning up to 28 drummers, the band hired British drummer Ainsley Dunbar, who recently had worked with David Bowie and had been a member of the second iteration of Frank Zappa's and Mothers of Invention. New Line made up its debut in February 5th, 1974 at the Great American Music Hall in front of Columbia Records executives and secured a recording contract with the label. The band went on to perform at the venues around the Bay Area. Journey went into CBS Studios in November 1974. Producer Roy Haley did his debut album Journey, and it released in 1975. And the band entered the studio again in late 1975 to record Look Into the Future, which was released in January 1976 and entered the Billboard 200 charts at number 100. The band promoted the album with 2-hour performance at Paramount's theaters in Seattle, which later aired on the radio as touring continued to promote the album. And from May to October 1976, Wheel Studios to record his third studio album Next, which, like its predecessor, was produced by the band. This album had much more commercial sound while keeping the band's jazz fusion and progressive rock roots intact, which was released in February and charted on Billboard 200 at number 85. However, sales did not improve, and Columbia Records was on the verge of dropping the band. In 1987 and 1980, new musical direction, infinity, evolution, and departure. I think some of the stuff we did was great, but some of it was self-indulgent, jamming for ourselves. But I also think a lot of other things hurt us in the early days, but it took us a while for the politics to sort of shape up. Neil Scone. Journey's album sales did not improve. Columbia Records requested that they change their musical style and add a frontman to share the lead vocals with Rowley. The band hired Robert Fleischman, and made the transition to a more popular style, akin to a Foreigner and Boston. Journey went on tour with the Fleischman in 1977, opening for bands such as Black Sabbath, Target, Judas Priest, and Emerson and Lake and Palmer. Fleischman and the rest of the band began writing and rehearsing new songs, including soon-to-be popular track Wheel on the Sky. During a performance before the 100,000 in Soldier Field in Chicago, the band was introduced to Steve Perry. Differences between Fleischman and manager Herbie Herbert resulted in Fleischman's departure from the band in September of that year. Journey hired Steve Perry as their new lead singer on October 10, 1977. Perry made his live debut with the band at Old Waldorf on October 28, 1977, in his master studios and Cherokee Studios in October to December. Herbie Herbert and the band's manager hired Roy Thomas Barker as a producer to add to a layered sound approach, similar to what the bands previously produced band Queen with their lead singer and new producer in the band's fourth studio album Infinity, released in January 1978, peaked at number 21 on the Billboard 200 and embarked on tour in support of the album, which they performed as headliners of the full tour for the first time, beginning with their topping at the bill that included Van Halen and Rodney Montrose. So yeah, putting this short and sweet and simple, um, I really thought that the band kind of, I'm glad that they did change their style and change the way that they their musical style and their you know and popularity, and adding one vocalist and adding adding another band member to increase the popularity in their style. And I really do enjoy um their second album, Look Into the Future. And I definitely did enjoy Infinity. That's definitely one of their better records. To me, it just showcased that they were trying to go into a different direction, and I really think they executed well. The the riffs, the guitar riffs, the overall soundscape, the overall musicality, they really just shaped it for them. Favorite songs from them have to be Open Arms, Frontiers, and Separate Ways, Faithfully, and After the Fall. Um, I would definitely say recommend them to a lot of newcomers. If you have not heard of them, check them out. But for those of you who have heard of this legendary band, if you have heard of them, tell me what you guys think down in the comments. I had to get on out of here real quick because I got some other things, some other videos to do, to take care of. So other things to take care of, other videos to do, other lives to do. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. And I am out.